With the 15th pick in the 1996 NBA Draft, the Phoenix Suns select Steve Nash from the University of Santa Clara.
How does a kid from a small Canadian city, overlooked and doubted at every stage, end up changing the entire way basketball is played? Steve Nash wasn't built like a superstar, and he didn't enter the league with hype. Yet somehow, he became a two-time MVP and the face of a basketball revolution. But with all the brilliance came setbacks, near misses, and a painful final chapter that left fans wondering what could have been. So what really happened to one of the game's most unique legends? And what kind of legacy did Steve Nash leave behind? Well, stick around to find out. The birth of a long shot. Steve Nash didn't grow up in a basketball hotspot. He was raised in Victoria, British Columbia, a small, quiet Canadian city known more for its scenic coastline than producing elite athletes. Born in 1974 to a South African mother and a British father, Nash's first love wasn't even basketball. It was soccer. He played goalie and midfielder with natural footwork and vision, traits that would eventually shape his basketball style. In fact, it wasn't until he was around 12 or 13 that Nash even started taking basketball seriously. And even then, it was on local courts and in cold high school gyms, far away from the scouting circuits that future NBA stars typically passed through. By high school, Nash was clearly talented, but nobody was flying across borders to watch a skinny 6'1" Canadian kid from the Pacific Northwest. His breakout came almost by accident. His high school coach sent film to dozens of U.S. colleges begging someone to take a look. Santa Clara University, a mid-major school in California, offered him a scholarship. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a shot, and Nash took it. At Santa Clara, Nash went from unknown to undeniable. He turned heads during his freshman year by leading the team to an upset win over number 2 ranked Arizona in the NCAA tournament, the kind of Cinderella moment that makes scouts sit up. He finished his college career with averages of 14.6 points and 6.4 assists per game and was named the West Coast Conference Player of the Year twice. Still, in a 1996 NBA draft stacked with names like Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant, Ray Allen, and Stephen Marbury, Nash wasn't considered elite. He was taken 15th overall by the Phoenix Suns. When his name was called, he was booed by Suns fans. They had no idea who he was, and many assumed he didn't belong. His early years in the NBA were rocky. In his first 2 seasons, he averaged just 3.3 and 9.1 points per game, mostly coming off the bench. He dealt with injuries and limited minutes. Still, he showed flashes: a high school basketball IQ, elite shooting mechanics, and the ability to see the floor in ways that other guards couldn't. He wasn't great yet, but people around the league started whispering that he might be someday. As the whispers grew louder, so did Nash's hunger to prove he belonged. And when a trade sent him south to Dallas, he found his voice. But before that, if you're enjoying the video, hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Now, moving on. Dallas days, brotherhood, breakouts, and business. When Steve Nash was traded to the Dallas Mavericks in 1998, most fans didn't blink. He wasn't a star yet, and the Mavericks were one of the worst teams in the league. But what happened over the next 6 seasons would change not just Nash's career, but the entire trajectory of that franchise. More importantly, it was in Dallas where Nash met a tall, lanky German forward named Dirk Nowitzki, and the two quickly formed a bond that went beyond basketball. Their chemistry was natural and unforced. Off the court, they were close friends. On it, they clicked like gears. Nash's ability to read the floor and Dirk's developing scoring versatility created a rare dynamic. Nash didn't just run the offense, he orchestrated it. His court vision sharpened, his shooting became deadly, and his confidence skyrocketed. By the 2000-2001 season, he was averaging 15.6 points and 7.3 assists per game.
Calvin Booth is hurt. He can't get up and down the court.
Nash, and a shot from Nash!
Nash, who was forced to play a perimeter game, has been able to get by John Stockton. What hand did he shoot that with? That was a left-handed shot.
His second year picks it up. Nash weaving the other way. Roll again
year later, he was up to 17.9 points and 7.7 assists, shooting over 48% from the field and 40% from three. He wasn't just a capable point guard anymore. He was one of the most efficient and intelligent playmakers in the league. The Mavericks went from laughingstock to playoff regulars. Nash, Nowitzki, and Michael Finley formed the original Big Three in Dallas, a group built on finesse, skill, and unselfishness. Fans started seeing Nash as the team's heartbeat. But behind the scenes, questions about his durability started creeping in. By 2004, Nash was 30 and playing through recurring back issues. His contract was up, and Mark Cuban, the famously bold and data-driven Mavericks owner, made a decision he'd later regret. Phoenix offered Nash a 6-year, $63 million deal. Cuban countered with 4 years, around $36 million. He was worried about long-term health and declining performance.
That Steve had only played like 28, 29 minutes a game that previous year, and we were worried about the injuries.
Yes.
And so just that was it in a nutshell.
So Nash took the Suns' offer. Cuban has admitted on video multiple times that it was the biggest mistake he ever made. As Nash boarded a flight back to Phoenix, he wasn't the same kid they once booed on draft night. He had something to prove, not just to Mark Cuban, but to the entire league. What happened next, no one saw coming. Phoenix rising. When Steve Nash returned to Phoenix in 2004, most people thought he'd be a solid veteran presence, a steady hand on a young roster. Nobody expected him to flip the league on its head. At 30 years old, Nash didn't just get better, he became the engine of a basketball revolution. Head coach Mike D'Antonio had a vision, a fast-paced, fluid style of offense built around constant motion, spacing, and quick decisions. Nash was the perfect player to run it. The 7 seconds or less system asked players to push the ball up the court and get a quality shot before the defense could get set, ideally within 7 seconds. Most teams were still grinding through half-court sets. Phoenix, with Nash at the wheel, was sprinting into the future. The first season back in Phoenix, 2004-2005, Nash averaged 11.5 assists per game, leading the NBA. The Suns went from 29 wins to 62, the best record in the league. Nash wasn't the fastest or the strongest, but his timing, touch, and vision carved up defenses like a surgeon. He won the league's Most Valuable Player award, edging out Shaquille O'Neal and silencing every critic who once called him fragile or overrated. But he wasn't done. The following season, with Amari Stoudemire sidelined due to injury, Nash somehow got even better. He averaged 18.8 points and 10.5 assists per game, shooting over 50% from the field and nearly 44% from three. With fewer weapons around him, he carried the Suns deep into the playoffs again and won his second straight MVP. Only a handful of players in history have pulled that off. Nash did it while making everyone around him better. Beyond the numbers, Nash changed the perception of what a point guard could be. He wasn't built like a superstar, but he played like one. He didn't need to dunk or dominate physically. He won with intelligence, movement, and touch. And he inspired a generation of future guards to do the same. But brilliance always comes at a cost. For all the beauty Nash brought to the game, there were cracks beneath the surface, and the weight of expectations would only grow heavier from here. Dreams deferred, injuries, missed rings, and Lakers let down. For all of Steve Nash's brilliance in Phoenix, there was always one thing missing: the ring. Year after year, the Suns seemed right on the edge of something historic, only to fall short in painful, often controversial fashion. The most crushing moment came in 2007 during a second-round series against the San Antonio Spurs. In Game 4, the Suns had momentum. Nash had taken an elbow to the nose, came back bloodied but locked in. Then Robert Horry body-checked him into the scorer's table, a hard foul that sparked chaos. Two of Nash's key teammates, Amari Stoudemire and Boris Diaw, stepped a few feet onto the court during the altercation. The NBA suspended both for the next game. The Suns lost the series. Just like that, their best shot at a title evaporated. Behind the scenes, Nash was grinding through the physical toll of carrying a team on his back. Literally. His chronic back condition required daily maintenance just to function. Ice baths, stretching routines, core stabilization work, and relentless physical therapy became his norm. By the time he reached his mid-30s, every minute on the court came with a price. But he kept going. He always kept going. In 2012, he made a move that stunned fans, signing with the Los Angeles Lakers. It looked like a super team on paper. Nash, Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, and Pau Gasol. Expectations were very high, but the reality was brutal. In only the second game of the season, Nash fractured his leg in a freak collision with Damian Lillard. The injury never fully healed. It messed with his nerve function, worsened his back, and derailed everything. Over 2 seasons in LA, Nash played just 65 games total. He looked like a shell of himself. His passing was still sharp in moments, but his body wouldn't cooperate. In 2015, he officially retired, not with a farewell tour, but with a quiet statement on the Players' Tribune, thanking the game and admitting his time was up. After retiring, Steve Nash stayed close to the game, quietly stepping into a consultant role with the Golden State Warriors.
And it's been a pleasure. I never really thought about doing this at all, but I realized when I stopped playing that I enjoy sharing what I've learned. I enjoy, giving back in that way.
And in 2020, the Brooklyn Nets came calling, offering him the head coaching job. However, this did not pan out. He lasted just over 2 seasons. For all his basketball IQ, Nash had stepped into a job no one could truly succeed in. And with the chaos behind him, Nash focused on his legacy. Nash's legacy. Steve Nash never chased the spotlight. Even at the height of his career, he carried himself more like a guy you'd run into at a neighborhood coffee shop than a 2-time MVP. But that low-key approach only made his legacy more powerful. He didn't need to shout. The game spoke for him, and so did his influence, which continues to ripple through basketball and beyond. After stepping away from coaching, Nash poured himself into the things he always loved but rarely had time for. One of them was film. A lifelong fan of storytelling, he co-directed Into the Wind, a documentary about Canadian icon Terry Fox, as part of ESPN's 30 for 30 series. It wasn't a vanity project. It was honest, emotional, and beautifully done, the kind of work you'd expect from someone who's always seen the world a little differently. He also kept giving back. The Steve Nash Foundation has quietly impacted thousands of children around the world, focusing on education, health, and opportunity. There's no press tour for it, no flashy headlines, just real work with real results. Nash always seemed more interested in doing than in being seen doing. And then there's soccer, his first love. He became part owner of Vancouver Whitecaps FC and later invested in La Liga club RCD Mallorca. It wasn't about clout, it was about passion. That's always been his fuel. On the court, his legacy is everywhere. Watch Steph Curry break down a defense or Luka Doncic manipulate a pick and roll, and you'll see Nash's fingerprints. And not just in their game, but in how they think the game. He made it okay for point guards to be thinkers first, to play with craft instead of brute force. In 2018, he was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame.
Welcoming Steve to the Hall of Fame is Don Nelson. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Nash.
No one questioned it. He's still only one of 13 players in league history to win multiple MVPs. He never won a championship, but that never really mattered. Greatness isn't just about trophies, it's about how long your influence lasts after you're gone. Steve Nash didn't follow the blueprint, he made his own. And maybe that's the most lasting legacy of all, showing that quiet fire can burn just as bright. So, what's your take on the incredible journey of Steve Nash? Was he underrated or exactly the legend the game needed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear them. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.